Welcome back, Kings and Queens, and welcome if you're new here. My name is Hope King, and I'm the designer behind Kings Designs MD. Today, I'm going to work on the love notes that I showed you how to design. I just want to show you how to assemble them. As you can see, it's two long ones on the sheet of paper and two short ones. So you'll have like the little mini notepads and the larger ones. So I'm just going to cut them. And I hope you can see, I'm using a paper slicer, but you can cut these by hand if you have a straight cut. I will tell you my paper slicer is getting dull, but I just want to line my edges up as much as possible. Slice off the edge, and I got a pretty clean cut on that one. And then I just turn it. I line everything up as even as possible, and I slice. And I'm just going to rotate and keep doing it. I usually move my paper cutter back down to the other end when I'm done, because it gets in my way sometimes when I'm cutting. So I'm just going around and slicing as much as I can of the white off. There we go. And like I said, my paper cutter is getting dull. I either have to figure out how to replace the blades, or I'm just going to have to replace the cutter, because I noticed some of my pages aren't getting a good clean edge anymore. Some of them are and some of them aren't. So I just want to fix that. Also, if you have issues with cutting your paper, sometimes if you start right here at the edge, it'll pull your paper. So start in the middle and then slide in the different directions, and it might give you a cleaner cut. So again, you saw my paper scrunch up. If you start in the middle, work to the end, lift up, and then come back down, you might get a cleaner cut. And so I'm rolling through them. You can do these stacks at a time. I'm just doing this just to show you on camera how I cut. But if you did them stacks at a time, obviously it will cut down your processing time. So I have the short ones cut, long ones cut. I'm going to get some of this stuff out the way so you can see. And what I like to do is, so you see all of mine are not perfectly even. I'm not selling these. I'm just putting these together. This is something I'm going to keep just so I can show you guys. But these are my Dollar Tree clips. What I do is I stack them up to try to get them as even as possible across the top. So now I'm going to put my Dollar Tree clips on. You want to put them on each side. If you don't get these, it's best to get them as even as you can across the top, because you'll have more of a difficult time if you don't get them even there. If you get them cut perfectly even, if you cut them all at the same time, you might get a more even cut on all of your stacks of paper. But you got to get them even across here, or you're going to have some issues. Now you see all of mine are not cut exactly even across the bottom and the sides. Again, I'm not selling this. I'm not worried about it. I just wanted to give you a demonstration. Typically I use a paintbrush. I can't find my paintbrush today, so I am using Mod Podge. I'm using the gloss kind. Now, if you watch different crafters, everybody has their own method of doing it. So you have to find a glue that you think works best for you. This is just my method and the way I do it. Again, I typically do not use a craft stick. I am typically, and that's why I don't use a craft stick. I'm typically using a paintbrush, but that's okay. If you have any type of spills or any type of issues, when you're putting this on, you can always pull off your top sheet. The thing you really want to do is you do not have to use a whole lot like I just did, but you want to make sure you get it all the way down into the fibers of the top of your paper, So even if you wanted to use your finger, just make sure you get all that pushed down. I'm going to take this first sheet off just so it's not a complete mess. But then you let this dry, and that's all you're really doing is getting this across the top of your paper, and then you set it to the side and let it dry. Now I'm going to do the same thing with my next one. Probably should wash my hands in between, but I'm not even going to worry about that right now. I am trying to get them down as even as possible across the top. Getting this on. You really only need a little bit. You don't have to go crazy, again, like I did. Just a little bit on a paint stick or a paintbrush, and you're just getting a little bit on there, and you want to drag it across. Now, again, when I'm doing my first set, I like to use a paintbrush because I want to make sure it's all the way into the fibers of the paper, because this is what keeps all of your sheets of paper connected. So if you use your finger, you can press down in there. You can make sure it gets all on the top. Some people even like to touch the little corners on the side just to make sure it's all the way smooth down. It really doesn't even take these long to dry. But that's how you do it. And sometimes I'll even put some clips across the top because I don't want it to bubble or buckle while it's drying. But once you do a few of these, you'll get to know what works for you and what doesn't. So again, I'm just reaching in here, grabbing some more. And I'll actually set this on my craft table because once you do it, the clips, the binder clips, actually lift it up a little bit, so it's not like sitting flat on your table where it's going to stick to your table. Now you can see I didn't put any crafting clips across this one, and you can see what I'm talking about, the bubbling and the buckling. So you can always go in with more Mod Podge and smooth it right back out. So again, I prefer a paintbrush because you're not going to get all the extra across it like I did with this one. Or if you're a person that likes to touch your products and don't mind getting stuff on your hands, go across it with your hands and make sure it gets all in there. Now again, if it gets too wet, if it gets too saturated, it's going to bubble and buckle, so you don't need it to be too wet. You just need the glue to catch it across the top. And this will keep it compressed so that instead of having wavy paper, it's just going to be straight across the top, and it'll have a nice gloss on it. Now, I told you these things dry fast, so this is already tacky, and I can even go in with a second coat for this. So I usually would do about 2 to 3 coats. Now this time you can give a little extra. So you see it's pooling at the top this time. That's fine for me on the second coat. I don't like to do that on the first coat because I want it to seep all the way in and make sure it gets into the fibers of my paper. Now for the second coat, it's going to leave a cute little edge. Like if you ever pay attention to sticky notes, it has a nice little almost plasticky type edge to the top. So if you leave it like this, when it now dries, it's going to have this nice little kind of glossy lift up plastic type feel to it. You want to try to get it as even as possible all the way across the top. Again, my preference is paintbrush because it'll try to keep it even for you. And somebody's at my door, so hold on. Okay, so I answered the door. I got some snacks, but this is probably still drying now. This one is still drying from the first round. And if you have too much glue on it, your clips can stick to it. So just so you know. So you can see it's still glue on my hand. So this is not ready. I'm going to put the clips back on it and let it continue to dry. And then I'll be ready. I will tell you it's better, again, if you put a little bit of glue on it at a time, especially for the first round. It dries faster and you end up not having to wait so long. Alright, well, I was planning on doing this as a separate video, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. Because I'm still waiting for my paper to dry. So, these are Dollar Tree shirt boxes. 9.43 inches by 14.25 inches. I have taken these boxes, I cut off all the edges, so then all you have is the flat box left, and then I've cut it in half. When I'm done, I have what is about 9 inches across by about 6.5 inches in height. I was experimenting with something earlier and kind of stumbled across this. What I ended up doing was making these books that you can put a pen in and you can put a notepad in. This is actually a Dollar Tree notepad, but I'm going to put my love notes inside of one, and then I'm probably going to put my sticky notes on the other side, just so I have something on both sides. But in my experimenting, this was my first one, and you see it's got some stuff in it, and that's just because I was testing this out to see how it would work. I stuck a notepad in there. I had only bought one at the time, so I stuck a notepad in there. I pulled it out, and I was using some tape, and I realized I didn't like the tape. So this was my first test item, and then this was the second test item. And they're slightly different, if you can see. But what you're going to see here is I use Dollar Tree wallpaper to do this. So this is a Dollar Tree box and Dollar Tree wallpaper, and that's how I'm going to create this. So with the Dollar Tree wallpaper, it has a fold line. You fold it back, and you can peel that top portion off. Then you want to pull the rest of it back, and then all of this is sticky paper. And be careful, because I have stuff sticking to it now. Now, the first time I did it, you can actually see this is Dollar Tree wallpaper on the outside, and this is just cardstock that I have in the house on the inside. I'm going to see how far I can go with just the Dollar Tree wallpaper, and then I will add cardstock. So I'm just going to place this in here and try to get it as even as possible. Like I said, this stuff is super sticky. I'm getting it in there, just laying it down. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And I'm just moving this up on my cutting mat so that I can try to get it as straight as possible when I'm putting it down. And these two things, they don't even have to be straight next to each other, because it's not like I'm folding them and creating a book out of this together. I just want to try to cut down the middle. So I have 2 individual pieces for 2 individual books. So I'm just going to set this piece to the side because I'm not going to be using it right now. Now that I have this piece, I'm just going to, I'm trying to decide if I want to cut my ends. I'm going to cut across my ends just in that diagonal. This side could actually be trimmed down some, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. And because this paper is sticky, you can see it's sticking to my scissors. So I'm just going to get that stuck back to the original paper. Now I'm just going to bring this up, fold that down, and it's already stuck to it because this is wallpaper, Dollar Tree wallpaper. I'm going to fold that up. Get all of my corners up. And again, all of my corners up. Now, if I wanted to, I could have used the full sheet of Dollar Tree paper to go on the inside. But I want to add some cardstock in here because I want to try to make this a little bit sturdier. So I have some of my Astro Bright cardstock. This is 65-pound cardstock, and it's just white. So I don't want this to be the exact size. This was what, 9 by 6.5. So I just want to cut this just a little bit shorter. If you don't have a paper trimmer or anything like that, you can just line your pieces up You can either draw around your edges, you can use your X-Acto knife to cut it, or you can score it and then cut it like I'm going to do. Now, I'm going to cut it to the exact same size, and then I'm going to trim it down. So this should be the exact same size as my regular sheet of paper. And you guys can't see it, but I can see my score line. And now what I want to do, I'm just going to pull out my paper trimmer to try to make my life a little bit easier right now. Because once you do this, you get paper everywhere. So I'm just going to put this on here, and I want to just trim it down maybe about 1/4 of an inch. That's 1/4 of an inch lengthwise, and then I'm going to take it about 1/4 of an inch widthwise. And now this should give me just enough so that it sits on the inside of this. And see how that sits? And so I could actually, if I want to, I can take it down a little bit more. If I want to have more of my edge showing around here. So I think I'm going to take it down a little bit more. And that's just a personal preference. You guys can figure out for you what might work for you. The next thing I'm going to do is just put some tape on it. You can use glue. Now, my issue with glue is, sorry, I'm looking for my tape. My issue with glue is it gets too wet and it can warp your cardstock. It can make it all wavy and look crazy. I don't want that to happen, so I want to use glue if I can find it, or tape, excuse me, if I can find it. Here it is. So this is double-sided tape. Now, one of the easiest ways to do it is to put the double-sided tape actually on your cardstock. Get around all of your edges. You can even fill it in the middle. And you can put tape throughout the middle. I'm just not going to do it right now because I feel like I'm rushing to try to get this video done for you guys. So you want to get all of that. If your tape is not sticking, you can press it down and then pull on it so it will pull up. And what I love about double-sided tape is if you get a piece off the edge, just fold it back because it folds back against itself. So now you get that where you want it. And you press that down, you let it stick. Now when my love notes are done drying, I can put my notepad in here. I'm going to score it and then fold it over. So this looks like it's still drying. I did add some more glue to it. So this one looks pretty dry. If you have some, something across the top that you didn't like, you can always carefully pull off your first page. And as you can see, it's still wet on my first page. But you can carefully pull off your first page and try to get a cleaner look to the outside of your notes. Now, again, my stuff is still drying, but I've laid this down over it so I could see where I want to place it because I'm using a skinnier notepad this time. My first notepad was a 4x6. So I'm going to lay this down on the 4-inch line, and I'm going to score this because I know that's where I want it to fold. And so now it will fold there a little bit easier for me. I do have a scraper tool, but I'm just not going to use it right at this moment. But I'm going to fold that over. That way when I get ready to put my notepad in there, I have a score line already there for my notepad. I want to give it a second score, and I'm going to go over about 1/2 inch, and I have dots on my mat, so I'm going to go over about 1/2 inch, and I'm going to score this again. and fold it again. And just get a good marking on there. Now it has that little 1/4 inch fold down. And this should be just enough for my notepad. So you can see now, if I fold it down to how it's going to look with my notepad, it's at about 3.5 inches. So I have a slight little bit of room for my notepad, and now I have an extra little bit of room if I want to put a pen or something like that in there. You can make it smaller, you can adjust it for whatever you need it to do, but this is what I'm doing for tonight. Now, I'm being an impatient crafter. Don't be like me. I want to go ahead and put my love notes down. So I'm going to just add some tape to the back of my love notes. You could actually put some cardstock or something behind it, so it's just not a plain sheet sticking to the notepad. But just for the purpose of today, I'm going to go ahead and stick the paper to it. So I am adding tape to the back. Again, if you wanted to put a piece of cardstock behind it, it would give your notepad a little bit more structure. In the past, I have just used the notepads as they were. I didn't add anything behind it. So this is something new. If this was dry, you could tear off your first sheet and you could just have this as a finished product as it is. But if you want to do something extra, you can put your little notepad in there. And I'll do the same thing to the other one. Again, if you add cardstock to the back of it, it gives it a little more structure. But if not, you can just add this in and be done. So I'm just sticking my tape down, double-sided tape. And I'm just going to add it right in here. And so now I have notepads on both sides, and all of this basically was from a Dollar Tree box. So I'm loving it. Now, I didn't save my other piece, but one of the other things you can do is you can add a pin or a pin loop if you would like. Now you can move this over. I think if I did this again, I would move it over a little bit further. I don't want to tear it, but I will move it over a little bit closer, just so when you close it, it's not sticking out. Let me see what I can do here. Alright, my double side tape hasn't stuck too much, but if this is not sticky enough anymore, then I'm just going to tear up the back piece and put it back on. But things happen when you're crafting. This is real life and things happen. So there it is. It's moved over more, so now it looks a lot better. Pen. If you want to add your pen loop, you can do that now. Where's my other piece? I had the other sheet of cardstock that I could make another one of these, but because I'm doing this, I'm just going to fold this over so I have a solid piece. I'm going to cut this off with my paper slicer. So this is just more of the wallpaper stuck to cardstock, and you can cut it off to whatever size you think you might need. It's probably about 1/2 inch. I'm just going to move that out the way. Now you're going to create a pen loop. So you can grab your favorite pen, whatever you want. You can wrap this around this and make sure you give it a little bit of room so that, you know, you can tuck it in or have a place to cut it, and you have a pen loop. So if I cut it right here, this is going to be about 3.5 inches for me. Easiest way to do it is wrap your pen around it again, like I said. See where your pen sits, and then you can put your double-sided tape in the middle. So I'm just going to tear off a piece of my double-sided tape. I'm going to add it in here. Scrape it on down with my finger. Pull it off. And get this stuck together. I'm sorry, guys. I know you can hear my family in the background. I don't know what they're doing tonight, but they're loud. So, but they live here. So, there we go. We have a pin loop. You can make it tighter if you want. You can always add more double-sided tape and get it as tight as you want. You can also cut this down shorter if you don't want all this long piece here. If you were to do this before you put the book together, you could stick it in between the cardstock and the paper so you couldn't see it like that. Or if you want, you could stick it behind the love note. I'm just going to stick it in between here for now. But you could have stuck it behind the love note so it's there. Or you can simply stick it down and don't care about the paper showing. I'm going to cut mine down just a little bit. I'm going to add some double-sided tape to the back. Scrape it on down. Tuck my tape in. And just place my pen wherever I want it to sit. I hope you guys can see. So I have it there. And just stick my tape down. Now again, I would much prefer it to stick in between something or somewhere so it's just not sitting out there like that. But if you're looking for just something quick to do, there you have it. So you got your pin loop, your love notes, and it's there on two sides. So I hope this helps somebody. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you guys don't like this, let me know. If you want to see something different, something better, let me know. But I think this is pretty cute for a Dollar Tree items. Like this was a shirt box, some Dollar Tree wallpaper, copier paper, and I just printed out a cute little notepad set. So I hope this helps somebody. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and you guys have a great day.